But it's really three simple questions. What do I need to stop doing that I'm currently doing that's not serving me? What do I need to start doing, right, that I'm not currently doing but I need to do? And what do I need to continue doing that is serving me well? Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, 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 welcome. I hope you know what time it is. It's time for Life of a CISO with yours truly, Dr. E is in the house. How are you doing? And I mean that sincerely. How are you really doing? I know people always come up to you in the streets or other and go, how you doing? You're like, good, 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 right? We give these canned answers, but no, really, I just want you to stop for a minute. Are you doing awesome, right? I don't want good. I don't want great. I want unbelievable, right? So just think for a little bit. What could you do today, right now, that would make today an amazing day, that would make today different than any other day? And I challenge you to do something different, right? It's one of those crazy, crazy things. We hear the phrases of if you keep doing what you always have done, you'll keep getting what you always have had. And there's a lot of truth to that, right? I'm not saying your life isn't great, but could it be a little better? Because if you keep showing up the same way and doing the same things and having the same routine and all these same habits, you're going to continue to have the same life. So if we want to go up a couple notches, we want to get to world class, right? We're going to have to start doing things differently. We're going to have to start changing up our routine. We're going to have to start mixing it up a lot more. So I just challenge you, what can you start doing differently? What can you start doing that you haven't done? And what I always like to do is, and you can do this daily, weekly, or monthly, but it's really three simple questions. What do I need to stop doing that I'm currently doing that's not serving me? What do I need to start doing, right, that I'm not currently doing but I need to do? And what do I need to continue doing that is serving me well? Right, those three simple questions are just great adjustment questions. What do I need to stop? What do I need to start? And what do I need to continue doing? And hopefully, one of the things you need to continue doing is listening to the podcast. And one of the things you need to start doing is recommending it to colleagues and friends. So if you have some friends or colleagues, or even you can just go post on social media, hey, check out this next episode of Life of a CISO by Dr. Cole. If you could do a little bit of that, I'd really appreciate it. Because this year, I'm really unleashing the beast, right? I'm really letting the true Eric out and really embracing on my true purpose, which is to end suffering in cyberspace. You've heard me all talk about that mission before, and that I believe the reason I was put here was to make cyberspace a safe place to live, work, and raise a family. Let's face it, we live, work, and raise a family in cyberspace, whether we like it or not, and it's not very safe. Right? And if you're going to push back on that, just think about this. I always get folks go, Eric, I don't live in cyberspace. I live in the real world. I'm like, great. How much time do you spend on an average day on the internet, on your phone, online? I bet you for most people, if you break it down, they're sleeping 6 to 8 hours. They're spending at least 10, if not more, hours online, on the internet, checking email, surfing. We don't even realize how much time we spend doing that these days, right? Because we're always connected. But I bet you're spending at least a third, if not a half, if not more, of your time online. So we are spending more than we realize. And just think about it. Where's all your information? When you do banking, where is it? Online. When you find out your kids' grades, how do you find it out? Online. When your kids apply to college, online. When you apply for online, right? Everything online, right? Everything you're doing is online. So we need to accept the fact that we are living online. And here's the real test. How long can you go completely and totally disconnected from the internet? Right? I always get people go, Eric, I don't live online. And I'm like, yeah, you do. And they're like, no, I'm not addicted at all. I'm like, great, give me your phone. How long can you go without looking at your cell phone? How long can you go without any electronics at all? Like take away your computer, your iPad, your cell phone. And most people couldn't last 2 or 3 days, let alone 2 or 3 weeks, let alone 2 or 3 hours, right? So we really do have this issue there. And that's really what I'm embracing this year. But it's all about starting with CISOs. If we can get world-class chief information security officers to start implementing changes within organizations, right, then that goes out to the world. So this is all part of a bigger plan and a bigger mission as we start with the CISO and then we work our way outwards. So we're all about world-class CISOs getting better and improving every day. So I go back to the question, what do you need to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing to be world-class? So today, what I really want to talk about is a trend that I've noticed in security that's a very, very dangerous trend. And it's one that I want to make sure you avoid because you will not be able to be world-class if you accept this trend. And this trend is this. Breaches are bad. Shh, 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 shh. Don't tell anybody, right? We can't talk about it. We can't ever mention the B word, right? We have to go in and we have to be like, we are secure, we are protected. No one can ever get in. And it's not true, right? It's just not true. World-class CISOs embrace the breach. World-class CISOs talk about the breach. World-class CISOs recognize that breaches happen and they don't shy away from them and they talk about them in an open, honest fashion. And that's what we need to do as security professionals. We need to embrace and recognize that breaches are out there and they're going to happen. It's simple. It's the law of cybersecurity. Every area, the physical domain has laws, cybersecurity has laws. There are laws all around us. And the interesting thing about a law is this. It is always at play. You don't have to agree with the law. You don't have to believe in it, but it's still out there. A great example is the law of gravity. The law of gravity says that if you walk off a building, you will be pulled down to earth. Now, you can sit there and tell me you don't believe in the law of gravity or you don't understand the law of gravity. That's cool. But if you step off a 10-story building, you will be introduced to the law of gravity very, very quickly. It is always at play, whether you like it or not. And the law of cybersecurity is the same way. I get people that go, oh, I don't believe that law or I don't accept it. Great. It's still at play, right? And it's still there, right? When you ignore a fundamental law, right, it's not going to work out well for you. So the law of cybersecurity is simple. When you add functionality, you decrease security. It is really that simple. So the only possible way we can have 100% security is zero functionality. If we have zero computers, zero systems, zero apps, zero revenue, zero profitability, we can have 100% security. But the reality is, as we add functionality, we decrease security. It's the law. It's always going to be at play, which means as our systems get more and more functionally rich, and we put more data and more information online and accessible, our security does decrease. Which means if we do not have 100% security, and there's always going to be some vulnerabilities, then we're not going to be 100% secure and breaches are going to happen. So this is the conversation you must have, you need to have, and you have to have with your executives and your board of directors. If they believe that they're 100% secure, if they believe that you're never going to get breached and it's never going to happen, you are in a really bad spot. You are setting yourself up for failure because it's going to happen. Now, how do we know this is true? How do we know that most CISOs have not teed up this conversation and have not had this open communication with their executives? Because what happens when a breach occurs? In almost every organization historically, when a breach happens, they fire the CISO. Why is that? Because in their minds, a breach was not supposed to happen. We were supposed to be fully secure. And because a breach happened and we were not secure, that means the CISO failed, and that means we fire them. Can you see how this is problematic? Can you see how this does not work? Right? This is a broken model, and unfortunately, it's getting more and more broken because CISOs are afraid to address and have that conversation. If you're a CISO, if you want to be a CISO, if you're a director, if you're a manager, even if you're a security engineer, when was the last time you had a conversation with an executive at any level in which you said, we are not 100% secure and a breach can happen? And like I said, most of you, when you hear, right, we feel uncomfortable, right? We don't like that. It's like, wait, that doesn't sound correct, right? How can the security person be saying that? It's because it's true. And the more honest you are, the better you'll be in your job. But how in the world can a CISO truly be successful if their executives believe that they need to achieve 100% security and breaches are bad, and they know that's not true? It creates a friction that is probably one of the easiest ways to explain the current problem in corporations and the government. Is there is this disconnect where what the executives are believing and what the truth is are not aligned, and CISOs are afraid to address it. They're afraid to embrace it and have those conversations. So a world-class CISO has world-class conversations and has difficult conversations and tells executives that we are not going to be 100% secure. Now, that does not mean we should not detect an attack for 3 years. That doesn't mean we should have 500 million records stolen, right? There's balances here. The goal of cybersecurity is not prevention. The goal of cybersecurity is timely detection and control of the damage. Now, yes, prevention is ideal, but detection is a must. And I'm one of the folks who coined that term way back in the 90s, and everyone has used it now, which is awesome. Best compliment on the planet when everyone takes the phrases you've come up with, right? It's total awesomeness. I love it. But prevention is ideal, but detection is a must. So we're really focusing on, yes, trying to stop what we can. So we do want to prevent. I'd be careful with that because I hear some people go in and everyone always got to push things a little too far, right? I heard somebody once say, well, you can't prevent all attacks, so why even try? I'm like, that's stupid. So you're saying that because a robber could get in my house and they could bypass an alarm and they could bypass a lock and they could bypass a deadbolt, let's just leave everything unlocked and the alarm turned off. That's crazy talk. I'm still going to lock my doors. I'm still going to have a deadbolt. I'm still going to have an alarm. I'm still going to do all those things because guess what? It makes it harder for the attacker to get in. Yes, they can potentially get past them, but why not try? Why not prevent as much as you can? Why not stop as much as you can? So yes, we do want to do as much prevention as possible, but recognizing that prevention is not 100%. Because you can only prevent things that are 100% bad 100% of the time. So if we have scenarios or activity that 80% of the time is bad, which means 20% of the time is good, we can't block that. Because if we're blocking that activity, if we're preventing or stopping it, then we're stopping 20% of legitimate traffic. We're stopping 20% of our customers, which is not acceptable. And that's the reason why prevention doesn't work all the time, because we can only stop things that are always bad. Things that are sometimes bad or partially bad, we cannot prevent because we'd be stopping authorized traffic into our organization. So we do want to prevent what we can, but cybersecurity is all a detection game. We want to detect attacks as soon as possible and minimize the damage that occurs to the organization. So ideally, we want to detect an attack before any damage, or detect an attack with minimal damage. We definitely don't want to be where we're detecting attack in 4 years after 500 million records are stolen, right? That's not a good spot to be in. That's not what we're talking about with security and detection. So we have to understand and wrap our arms around this mindset. And when it really hit me was, I give keynotes around the world, and I was giving a keynote, and after the keynote was done, it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and my flight wasn't until the evening. So the organizer of the conference said, Eric, why don't you stick around a little, listen to some of the other presentations? I said, great. So I'm sitting in the back of the room, and the next presentation is a panel discussion. So they say, okay, can each of the panelists please introduce themselves and give a little background? So the first panelist gets up and they introduce themselves, go through the background, and then they look at the audience and they go, just so you know, I'm a CISO and we've had no attacks and no breaches for the last 3 years. And they're saying it like it's a really good thing. And they're almost going like this. And you almost want to hear the audience, woohoo, yeah, right? And there's like this cheering and and great job type atmosphere in the audience. And then the next panelist gets up and they're like, they sort of look down a little bit. We've detected and responded to 3 incidents over the last year. And they're almost like looking down like they're ashamed, like the audience is getting a little tense. You might even hear a few people, boo, boo. And I'm watching this. And I'm just in the back of the room going, this has to be the most galactically stupidest thing I have ever seen in my life. And I'm looking at all these people going, what is wrong with us as a group of security professionals? This is totally backwards. The person who said they've detected no attacks and had no breaches in 3 years, we should have booed off the stage. They should be fired for gross negligence. How can you possibly say that a functioning organization making billions of dollars of revenue with offices and interconnectivity around the world and thousands of servers, you really honestly believe you've had no attacks, no incidents, and no breaches for 3 years? Are you kidding me? Are we really that naive? Right? Come on, there's no possible way that could be true. The truth is, you haven't detected it. But that doesn't mean it hasn't happened. And then the person who actually detected 3 attacks in a year should be promoted as a hero, should give training courses to other CISOs because they're accepting and dealing with the reality that, yes, incidents are going to happen. Breaches are going to happen. Let's embrace it. Let's own it. Let's look for it. As a CISO, If you're going on 6, 9, 12 months and there hasn't been any incidents or breaches or any attacks against your organization, you should start to get very concerned. You should start to be very scared and say, are we looking in the right places? Are we doing the things that we should be doing? What are we not doing that we need to be doing? What do we need to stop doing? We need to examine and look at our security, because the reality is, in the current way that our systems are out there on the internet, they are going to be attacked. They are going to be broken into, right? It's going to happen. So world-class CISOs embrace the breach. Right? I wish I could just sit there for a couple of minutes and let this absorb, because I know I just threw a lot at you. And some of you are probably like, what's going on? You might have to re-listen to it again, right? Because it is a total and complete paradigm shift for some folks. I know a lot of folks go in when I give this keynote live at events. I always get mixed audiences where a group of them cheer and go, finally, somebody is willing to talk about the truth. Finally, somebody is willing to come out and call a spade, right? But then there's another group of folks going, but Eric, that is dangerous. Do we really want to open that Pandora's box? Do we really want to let that genie out of the bottle? Because once it's out, we can't get it back in. And I'm like, why wouldn't we? Since when is truth a bad thing? Why don't we want our executives to know the truth? Why don't we want them to understand and accept the reality of what's happening? I never, ever have a challenge or an issue getting a budget. And the reason is simple. I'm always upfront. I always tell the truth to the executives, and I justify it. And I give them a simple decision. And they know that we are never going to be able to stop all attacks, but we want to minimize, control, and get visibility into what's happening. So a couple of exercises here as a CISO. What are the metrics that you are giving your executive team to show them that they're getting a good return on investment? I've seen a lot of folks come up, and this question comes up all the time, but Eric, if we're doing our job as security professionals, then nothing happens or nothing bad happens, and therefore, how do we show them that if we weren't there, all these bad things would be happening? And I have to go, whoa, time out here. Back to the law of security. If you have a functionally rich environment, you're not 100% secure. There's vulnerabilities out there. So let's rephrase it. It's not, Eric, if we're doing our job as security, nothing bad is happening. That's not true. The statement is this. Many people, if they think they're doing a good job on security, can't say that anything bad is happening. They believe that telling executives that there's incidents or attacks is bad, and that would be bad for their job, bad for their career, and bad for their division. So therefore, they're not going to say it or talk about it. But wait a second. Why is that bad? Why is that a bad thing? It's a good thing. Like, that's what we're supposed to do. So we need to have metrics where we're openly telling the company that, listen, we are being attacked. We do have incidents. We do have breaches. This is happening because not only is it justifying the budget, but then you're getting into the real conversation, which is, if you want to minimize or reduce the attacks, if you want to essentially increase detection and reduce damage, then you're going to have to spend more money on security. But right now, based on what you are paying, you are getting this level of detection and this level of damage. That's what you're currently paying for. And if you want to have more, you need to pay for it. Once again, I'm going heavy on this one. I didn't think I was going to drop all this stuff out there because this is a lot to process, but it's the reality. Most security folks will overpromise what they can do with the limited resources that they have. They will sit there, and when executives say, well, do this, do this, do this, they'll say yes, 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 and they'll never ask for money. They'll never ask for resources. What ends up happening is, one of the other phrases I came up with is, most CISOs or security folks are promising Bugatti-level security on a Honda budget. If you're not a car person, Bugattis are multi-million-dollar cars, and you cannot get a top-notch Bugatti for $30,000. Nothing against Hondas or Toyotas. They're great cars. I've had many. Right? You can get them for $30,000. So what's happening is we're basically saying you can get this level for a price that doesn't match. So we need to do a better job and go, okay, if you want to spend this, this is the car you can get. But if you want a Bugatti, you got to pay for a Bugatti. Right? We have to have these open discussions with the executives. Why aren't we telling them how many attempted attacks we have? Why aren't we telling them how many times we get attacked and broken into? Why aren't we having that conversation? Because here's the reality. Today, whether you like it or not, you know what the agreement is in most companies? Zero tolerance for breach. And how do we know? Because when a breach happens, you get fired. That's a pretty good indicator that there's a zero tolerance approach. Now, since I've gone off the reservation on this podcast, let's just go crazy. Crazy talk. What if you actually had this conversation with the executives? Based on the current budget and what we're spending on cybersecurity, we're going to tolerate or have one breach a quarter, and it will cost approximately $1 million per breach. So we're saying that we're going to have 4 breaches, potentially, up to $4 million worth of damage. That's what we're currently paying for. If we have less than that, we did a great job. More than that, we have to readjust or see what's going on. But right now, this is the level that we're at. We're going to potentially have 4 breaches. What a difference. Now, I know some of you are like, whoa. Like, there's way too much to handle, right? So some of you might have to take this in segments because you're going to hyperventilate, right? Because I'm throwing so much new paradigm shifts. But here's the real question. Where am I wrong? Why are we promising something we can't deliver? We all know in our hearts of heart that 0 breaches is not practical. It's not reasonable and it can't be achieved. It creates a stress because we know it's not possible. So why don't we have an open, honest conversation? Why don't we openly say, listen, based on what we're spending on security, here's what we can deliver. And let's agree on having a certain number of breaches. Let's agree on having a certain amount of damage. This, believe it or not, I think I'm crazy, but this is what executives want. They want the truth. They want open, honest conversations. They want to know what they're really getting for security. I spend a lot of time with CEOs, and they're like, Eric, why can't the CISOs just tell us the truth? If we're going to have breaches, let us know. If we need to spend more, let us know. But they get frustrated that CISOs are overpromising and under-delivering in this area, right? So world-class CISOs address the truth. They take the truth head on, and they have the hard, difficult conversations with the executives. Now, as I start to wrap up, the final piece, everyone says, but Eric, if I do that, if I go in and have those conversations that you just said, and I'm open and honest, and we say we're going to have breaches, and we agree to a number, what if I get fired? What if they don't want me to be the CISO anymore? What if I lose my job? Okay, step back. Do you really want to work for that organization? If you tell them the truth and they fire you because of it, you're accepting and acknowledging that saying 0 breaches are never going to, saying that 0 breaches is what our goal is and they're never going to happen, you know is not the truth, you know it's not realistic, you know it's not accurate. So you're having an open, honest conversation and they fire you because of it. Isn't that a good thing? would you really want to stay at that organization? And here's the irony. You're going to get fired anyway. Because guess what? Breaches are going to happen, right? So it's one of those where maybe if you didn't have the conversation, you'd postpone the inevitable for some period of time, right? But the reality is, if they truly are ignoring the law of security and think that they're 100% secure, that's not going to maintain for long term. The truth will be revealed and you get fired anyway. So what do you have to lose? Right? So as we sort of wrap up, world-class CISOs embrace the breach. And this one, like I said, I have a basic script, but I really just speak from the heart. And this one took me in a different direction than where I thought I was going. I laid out a lot of stuff. So this is definitely one of those episodes you want to go back, re-listen to over and over again, because there's a lot of good stuff in here. Hope you found it valuable. If we can help you, like I said, we always have some free resources, but if you want to accelerate and crank it up, we have several different paid resources where I show you how to get a job as a CISO. I do coaching. We create world-class CISO. So definitely go over to secure-anchor.com, look under training, look at some of our CISO courses, and I hope to see you in one of our courses soon. Otherwise, have an amazing week, and I'll see you next week on Life of a CISO.